The detective looked at me for a long time before saying something that has stayed with me ever since. He told me that the strangest missing person investigations rarely began with someone running through the woods or screaming for help. More often, they began with someone making one ordinary decision that didn't seem important until it was far too late. At the time, I thought he was trying to comfort me, but after everything that happened, I realized he was simply telling me the truth. My name is Ethan, and I spent almost 15 years driving across the country repairing industrial refrigeration systems. My work often took me to isolated farms, abandoned factories waiting for demolition, and small villages where mobile phone signals disappeared long before the road ended. I enjoyed the solitude because it gave me time to think, and after years of traveling alone, I stopped feeling uncomfortable in quiet places. That changed one autumn evening. My final appointment had taken much longer than expected, and by the time I packed my tools into the van, darkness had settled over the countryside. Rain drifted across the windscreen in slow waves while my satellite navigation redirected me away from the main road because of an accident several miles ahead. The diversion led me through narrow country lanes bordered by dense woodland. There were no streetlights, no houses, and almost no traffic. The only sounds were the steady rhythm of my wipers, the engine, and rain striking the roof of the van. After almost 40 minutes, I noticed a single house standing alone beside the road. Its porch light was on. Every other building I'd passed had been abandoned. As I drove by, I caught a glimpse of an elderly man standing perfectly still beneath the porch roof. He wasn't waving for help or trying to flag me down. He simply watched my van disappear into the darkness. I didn't think much of it until the road ended. A fallen tree blocked the lane ahead, forcing me to turn around. When I drove back, the house was still there. So was the man. He smiled politely as I slowed beside the gate. "Road's blocked," he said. "Storm brought the tree down an hour ago." His voice was calm and friendly. He suggested another route that would rejoin the main road about 20 miles farther east. Before I left, he added one sentence: "Don't stop for anyone until you reach the bridge." I thanked him and drove away. At first, I assumed he was warning me about flooding or fallen branches. Then, less than 10 minutes later, I saw another vehicle. It was parked partly across the lane with its hazard lights flashing. A woman stood beside it, waving both arms. She looked frightened. Instinct told me to stop. Then I remembered the old man's warning. I slowed without pulling over. As I passed, she shouted something I couldn't hear through the rain. In my mirror, I saw her lower her arms. She wasn't chasing me. She simply watched my van disappear. The bridge appeared 15 minutes later. Beyond it, the road widened and mobile reception returned. I stopped at the first petrol station and mentioned the broken-down car to the cashier. He frowned. "There aren't any houses on that road." I laughed because I'd spoken to the old man less than half an hour earlier. "There haven't been," he replied, "for years." According to him, every property along that lane had been demolished after repeated flooding. The next morning, curiosity got the better of me. I searched online. The road existed. The bridge existed. The house did not appear on any recent maps. Assuming the information was outdated, I contacted the local council. An engineer eventually replied. The property had been demolished almost 6 years earlier after becoming structurally unsafe. I convinced myself I had remembered the location incorrectly. Life returned to normal. 3 months later, I accepted another job in the same county. This time, I deliberately drove that road during daylight. The tree was gone. The bridge was exactly where I remembered it. The house was not. Instead, an overgrown concrete foundation sat behind rusted fencing. Nothing more. As I stood beside the gate, a farmer stopped his pickup truck and asked whether I was looking for someone. I described the elderly man. His expression changed immediately. Without saying a word, he pointed toward a police memorial fixed to the fence. It listed 4 names. All road workers. All killed during severe flooding several years earlier. One photograph showed an older man. The same face. The farmer shook his head. "I wasn't pointing to him," he said quietly. He pointed lower, at another photograph. A young woman. The same woman I'd seen waving beside the broken-down car. The investigation that followed had nothing to do with ghosts or legends. Police records revealed something much more ordinary and much more disturbing. The road had become a favorite place for organized vehicle thefts years earlier because heavy rain, poor visibility, and limited phone reception made stranded motorists easy targets. Criminals had repeatedly staged breakdowns to persuade passing drivers to stop before robbing them and stealing their vehicles. Several disappearances from that period remain unsolved. The old house had once belonged to one of the road workers who repeatedly warned police that criminals were using the isolated lane long before enough evidence existed to prove it. He died before anyone listened. Investigators believe his warnings saved countless drivers after road signs were eventually installed and traffic diverted elsewhere. When detectives interviewed me, they believed whoever staged the breakdown I witnessed had realized I wasn't stopping and abandoned the attempt before I reached the bridge, where passing traffic became more frequent. No arrests were ever made. I still travel for work. I still drive through isolated places. But whenever someone asks me whether lonely roads are frightening, I tell them the road itself was never what worried me. It was the people who understood exactly how loneliness changes the decisions we make. Empty places don't create danger. Sometimes they simply make it easier for dangerous people to be patient.